Hello and welcome back to The Habit Architect. This is Michael Cups. I'm your host today. And sorry for a little late start here. We had some technical difficulties, as all of you that have ever been on a Zoom call can attest to, that there's always something you have to configure. So excellent. Welcome back. I am just going to say that The Habit Architect is sponsored by Time Bandit. You can go check out more details at timebandit.io. We've got some new features in the app that are coming that are very cool. So go ahead and download that free trial and get started, and you'll see some of those features soon. So my guest today is actually somebody that I've worked with in the past several times, but even a more fun fact is this amazing fact that we were both born on the same day and the same year. So we think we're twins, even though we
Yes.
have different mothers and fathers, the same day, same. So welcome, Donna. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, just because you've got a great past and everything,
Sure.
and you'll do better than I will.
Sure. Well, I actually work professionally in the technology industry, doing all kinds of things like product marketing, software product management, and sales enablement. So that is my professional background. But I have also just recently founded GoBinders, and that was really born out of a passion and some of the experiences that I've gone through. So, which
Excellent.
I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to. I like it, and I've got a prop. I've got actually mine. I'm going to show in a
Oh,
moment,
awesome!
or at some point during the call when it's right. The yeah. So GoBinders. Let's talk about that. So just real quick, if you're curious and you're watching, GoBinders.com is where you would find it. But tell us what it is at first. Let's talk about what it is, and then let's kind of go into
Sure.
the story of how it evolved.
Sure. So it's an organizational system for all of your vital documents, and but it's not just the binders and the tabs. There's a lot of guidance that comes with it, and there's also a vision for the future, for getting everything up, helping people get everything up to the cloud, and also for guiding you step by step, using motivational tools, because getting all of your information in order is no easy task. It's very daunting. People put it off, and if you put it off too long, it's going to become an issue. So, and
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, we did buy your product, and I can't say that we're there yet, but we started, and I think I'm the culprit. What's really interesting to me is how I filed all that stuff in the past, and there was no system. It's
yeah,
just kind of stuck in one place, or this and this. But when you talk about vital documents, you're talking about things like birth certificates and insurance policies and all of that stuff, right?
yeah, and then all of that kind of financial stuff, like your life insurance policies, your wills, your living wills, all of that stuff. I don't know. I think if most people are like me before I lit a fire under myself a while ago, oh, I shouldn't use that term actually. Uh, but before that, like if I needed something, it was a mad scramble.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh my God, where did I put that? Running around for hours, digging through boxes.
yeah,
And I finally got so mad at myself that I put together a system for myself.
yeah,
Um, and that's where this was really born.
yeah.
And the blessing of the fact that I got this done. And after I did, a couple years later, we had a big fire come through our community. And if it hadn't been for me having all of this together, I would have been at a point where I would have had to say, well, let it burn. I'll deal with it later.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that's interesting. So the idea of Go Binders, you actually started before you were faced with a potential disaster,
yeah.
which you're thankful for, and that just the peace of mind must have been significant on that.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about that for a moment. I mean, a fire's coming your way. You live in Colorado, and there was
Yes.
started wildfire, and you're starting to see things get destroyed very close to you, proximity wise, and maybe even emotionally wise. Um, I mean, what was your first thought when they said, "Hey, need to get out of your house"?
Well, I could see the smoke coming, and it was the first time I thought, wow, this could actually happen. Because in the past, you live in a neighborhood like this and you think there's no way. It's just physically impossible. But the winds were blowing at 115 miles an hour, and it looked inevitable. And my first thought was, what do I take? And I was away from my house, and how do I get to my dog? And
Yep.
your heart's racing, you're panicking, and I had always had in my mind, okay, I've got my binders that I have all of my vital stuff, my passports, everything. And
Yep.
then, things that are emotionally important to me, like the my dad's Christmas ornaments, that kind of thing, and the dog. And one of the things I noticed is that other than those few things, I did not know what to take. And I was running around the house, literally spinning in a circle,
Yeah.
useless, not knowing what to take. So I just grabbed those few things in a box and I left. And then later, when we were evacuated, I sat there and then thought, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. I didn't take my jewelry. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that we include in the binder set is an evacuation checklist for you to prepare for ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you're not in that state because the panic takes over and
Yeah.
you yeah.
I've never lived through anything like that. I live in Texas, so we do have the fear of tornadoes constantly,
Yeah.
which could take things away in an actual minutes. And I have my dog and I have sat through a hurricane down in Galveston Island,
Yeah.
which is not a fun thing too. So, I mean, when you think about the need for it, just from a disaster evacuation standpoint, it's everywhere. So you're in Colorado, I'm in Texas. I just named two potential disasters in Texas that could happen. You've got,
Yeah.
earthquakes, you've got fires and fires. I even saw there's a red flag warning in the state of Georgia, kind of the western North
Exactly.
Carolina and South Carolina now. I mean, those aren't areas that you would think would have problems with that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
But then again, look at what the hurricane did to western North Carolina last
Yeah.
year. So regardless of where you live, it sounds, I mean, you just got to be prepared, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was just talking to my neighbor whose house did burn down. I got lucky, and they took nothing with them. They were lucky that some of their stuff survived. But just listening to what she went through with everything to do with having to rebuild the house, the overwhelming piece of having to recover all of your get a new passport, get new, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and you're already
Yeah.
emotionally drained. So
Yeah.
having this prepared is
Well, and even just the next thing you need to do is probably you're in conversations with an insurance agent
yeah,
or so if you don't have that stuff handy, get to the back of the line, right? I mean, it's kind of one of those
exactly.
things that I'm not suggesting that it's that the insurance companies can't figure out who Donna Tellam was, but
Yes,
the
right.
point is, if you have the information, you're going to be more efficient in getting started
Mhm.
on whatever the next phase looks like. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. Why don't we dig into a little bit? I see them behind you. So what you've built is a system that not only teaches but also stores it, right, in one
Yes.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got protective sheets for everything in case it's exposed to water. Coming soon, I want to have a fireproof, waterproof case you can store it in, but you can buy your own,
Yep.
right now. But it's really designed to just guide you through it.
Yep.
And and not only that, but there are things in life, like if you think about a couple starting out, um,
Yep.
a lot of us, especially our generation, our parents really didn't teach us how to
Yeah.
do this
How to
kind of
get
stuff.
organized.
Yeah, or even that you need to get life insurance, or you
Yep.
need to, at our age now, start thinking about long-term care insurance. So there are pieces in there that explain, what it is, why you need it, when you should be thinking about it. So it's also a great gift, like for a new couple getting married, because sometimes couples don't think, "Oh, I need to get life insurance,"
Yeah.
or, so it's also kind of a guide for people who maybe don't think about
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So
Yeah, well, let's go through some use cases because I can think of three right off the top of my head, and I know a young couple that have recently got engaged that I'm going to suggest this for them. And but also, when I think of military families,
yes,
there's sometimes a spouse and there's sometimes not, but either way, that person may get moved from post to post to post. And unfortunately, if you sign up for the military, there's potential
you're in
imminent
danger.
danger, right? And so that in of itself, there's transfer papers, there's birth certificates, there's all of those things. Who to even call, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, I think military is a good use case. I mean, I can rattle off a couple more, but what do you think about the military
I
aspect?
that one is really important to me because obviously the spouses, they are serving just as much as our people in the military, and
Yep.
they need to feel a peace of mind knowing that they have everything that they need to take care of things in the event, well, just when their loved one is deployed to begin
Yep.
with.
Yep.
But then, if God forbid something were to happen, they at least know how to carry on. They've got everything
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah. And it's hard to, especially if you're moving a lot. I mean, things can get lost, but if it's in one place that you can grab it and go, that's a great thing.
yeah,
And then we talked about married couples. You're right; when to buy life insurance, but there's marriage certificates. There's all sorts of things that
birth
start happening, and
certificates.
probably somewhere in there, it's their first rental of apartments together, their first bank accounts together, or separate, or their first house they buy, and all of that. We all know that have done it produces a lot of stuff that you need to archive in different ways. So
Yeah.
marriage couples and military, the one that's not as fun to talk about, but it's a reality, especially in our age group. We have aging parents that
Yes.
are getting to a point where they either need assistance with their arrangements today, or they unfortunately, if they pass, then there's the people left behind need to pick up and make sure that things get taken care of. So
Exactly.
yeah, so
And
that's a harder one to talk about, but I think it's important, right?
it's super important. And another thing that I went through, both with my in-laws and my mother, um, everybody's parents have varying levels of the way they organize their stuff. Some people will find themselves in a massive bind because they can't find anything, and maybe their parents were not organized, they were hoarders or something like that. I have friends who've told me stories like this. Or you'll have some like mine where, my mom had a good file system, but we had to dig out of her a lot of
Yeah,
information. And luckily we did that before she has dementia and before it got worse.
yeah,
So it's just super important. And I think even people our age talking to our children, I mean, things happen.
yeah,
What if I were to get hit by a car? Would my son know what to do, or my
yeah,
daughter? Would they know where to start? Who's our mortgage company? Who's our bank? Who's our financial planner? Did we have life insurance? People don't talk to their kids enough
right.
about this. And this is kind of meant to be a tool maybe that you could do together with your kids, or at
Yeah,
least show it to them. What I did after I made my binders is I typed up a letter to my sisters. I gave them the key, the code to the safe. I mailed it to them and I said, put this in a safe place in case something ever happens to me.
yeah. You know what? But when you said that, I think in our binders there's keys too, right? So we
Yeah.
have a second property, and that's just such a handy thing. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't think about it, but just that simple thing is
Yeah.
such a huge thing if something terrible was to happen, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, would your son know where the key to your second property is? And
right.
if you don't have the key, then what do? Imagine the process of trying to call a locksmith and break into a house that's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is
Exactly.
yours, but
Exactly.
yeah,
Let me show something fun. So when we got our box, this is what when I open the box, this is what I opened the box to.
yeah,
So can you tell us what "get your poop in the group"? Or I think we know what it means in
yeah.
a
Well,
literal sense, but where was that
my
inspiration?
Well, I actually stole that from my daughter because my daughter doesn't cuss.
Yeah.
And, so that's her way of saying, get your stuff together,"
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially. And I thought it was so cute and appropriate to go with this because, it it uh, it when I heard her say that, she always says it, and that was the first
Yeah.
thing I thought,
Yeah.
when I was putting this together, so
Oh, I love it though. And it made me laugh so much when I opened the box and it was front and center. I didn't even unpack it, the rest of it, so I could show Catherine that, what it looked like. And my son is now out of the U.S. Marines. He was a U.S. Marine, and he told me all the time the drill sergeants are telling them to get their S in order. And so
exactly,
this is a funner, more polite way of saying it. Get your poop in first.
exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's hilarious. Yeah. So I mean, what I really like about it, and I'll kind of show props here, is just like you said, there's checklists, and I don't know if
yes.
people can see that, but passports, social security, military IDs, et cetera, et cetera. And you've went in and very thoughtfully built these checklists, very thoughtfully built sleeves that hold a passport versus a sleeve that holds a key. I mean, that was a tremendous amount of work. Is that because you kind of went through it yourself? Is that how you learned to do that?
Yeah, it was from going through it myself, and also I'm a little OCD, so I like things to be very neat and tidy, and, the coming from a user experience, background, yes, it was in software. I was thinking about what is the experience of the person who's using this?
Yeah.
Um, you know, if I just throw at you a bunch of file folders and stickers, you're left to your own devices to figure
Right.
out what that is. So I wanted to include, what goes in here, what should be in here. And then once you have your checklist complete, it serves as a table of contents for the person who may be taking over for you
Yeah.
or um, and then coming soon, I'm really excited to start working on getting the digital side of this going. And I realized, yes, this is a very binary kind of
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
And I'm used to working in software, but you cannot start the digitization process until you've gone through gathering all the documents, organizing them. And also, I've talked to a lot of people, including my sister who's taken over my mom's estate. It having something physical is very important too.
Yeah.
So, especially for people who aren't necessarily technical.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, step one was get the organizational part done, get it to the point where people can collect the documents. And then soon I want to get
Yeah.
it so they can get it up in the cloud. So if by chance this burns with your house, that God forbid, you still have all of those documents available to you. But along with that, I want to have a digital guidance and motivation
Yeah.
process so that um,
Hey, I know an app that might be able to help with that. Time Bennett.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, and that's what I want to do talk about next. But let's stay on that subject for just a minute. I think you just listed several scenarios of why you need both, right?
Yes.
And I can't wait for the cloud version to be there because that's how I think. But I go back into my Dropbox and it's a mess. It's like my
Yeah,
filing system of physical files.
exactly.
Because what happened is maybe I got a new car somewhere along the way and I just kind of dumped it in there as opposed to
Yep,
really thinking about where it belongs. So
yep,
if my son, were to even have access to my Dropbox, he's probably going, what was happening here? Why,
yep,
why are these not, why are these filed weirdly? So I think that structure is good, but even more so, you said digital is good, but a lot of times in natural disasters, cell phones aren't working. Um,
exactly.
there's the Wi-Fi's down,
There's no
the electricity's
electricity.
down, whatever it may be. So having an analog version and a digital version
Yeah,
is a safety net as
yeah.
well. And that, I mean,
Well,
that's a practice in
it's funny you
disaster.
say that because one of the first things I realized I forgot in my binder and I forgot when we evacuated was a key to the house. And because I have the code, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, guess what? We didn't have power for a long time, so there was no way to get in the house, other than the fact that I accidentally left a door unlocked,
yeah,
thankfully, and was
yeah,
able to get back in, but, that was one of the things, a key, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Sometimes things fail, so have a backup.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Now let's talk about, because we are the habit architect and we talk about
Yes.
habits and things like that. What's interesting to me is, yes, there's a little bit of work to do to get yourself organized initially, especially if you're like me, in your 50s. I won't say exactly where in the 50s, but in the 50s.
Then you would
Um,
be exposing both of us.
yeah, exactly. And I can't do that to you out of being a gentleman.
That's
Uh,
right.
so I mean, getting organized initially is a little bit of a chore. Now if you're a young couple starting out, it's going to be a breeze. But let's talk about the habits you need to do as you're organized. Now, what do you do? And I use this analogy all the time. I was telling this to somebody about, she was complaining about dishes piling up in her sink, and I said, well, if you wash that dish and put it directly in the dishwasher right afterwards, they don't pile up. Then
Yes.
you're ready.
Yes.
So I think that kind of mentality applies here. Just make it part of your routine when you.
Exactly.
So can you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that?
just like you said, and I have been guilty of this. After I built my binder, I kind of had this sense of, oh, it's all done.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I'm like, oh, we changed our insurance, and oh, I consolidated that 401k. So now what I have done is I've gotten in the habit of, when I get that statement by email, or some people get them in mail, when I get that statement, I, for say a 401k or my insurance or whatever it is,
Hmm.
I make sure that I get that copy, I put it into the binder, and I update whatever needs to be done. So I
Yeah.
use those as my reminders, and then I give myself a week of grace period, and then I've got to get that in there.
I like
Um,
it.
yeah,
It's
and if I'm getting
almost the
East,
old. That's almost the old. If you go back to like the 50s and 60s, not that we could go back that far, but you see the movies, they have an inbox and an outbox.
yeah,
I mean, a
yeah,
physical thing that they put paper in, and
yeah,
some were going in, some were going out. That's what you just kind of
yeah.
applied.
I,
Yeah.
I had to do that, because when I opened up my binder, it was like ancient history after,
Yeah.
and I went,
Yeah.
oh, this
And
is
you
bad.
don't have to save everything, right? But you
No,
certainly need account numbers and
yeah,
things that are significant for you to know how to operate, right? You don't.
yeah,
I mean,
and
I turned off getting paper updates on like 401ks, like you said, because
exactly.
it's just showing the progress. But if it's when I change that 401k or move it to an IRA or something, that's the real event that needs to be updated, right?
Yeah, and what I do is I just print out the statement, and I
Yep.
put that in, because a statement is a great resource for uh, you know somebody who might take it over, or for you, because you can see the account number on there.
Yep.
And also for me, it's just kind of a nice way to say, "Ooh, look at the progress I made." I'll print just
Yep.
the cover page, and I'll stick it in there, because
Yep.
that has all the information anyone would need to
Right. I was gonna say most statements have even a customer phone number on there,
yep,
customer service phone number.
everything. And
Yeah.
even for example, 401k, who is your financial planner? It will have
Right.
on there.
Yeah.
Um, and all of this stuff, like when I bought my car, I put all of the paperwork for what did I buy, as along with this, like what warranty did I purchase, what all of that. And I often open this up and refer to it, because I forget what I
Yep.
bought.
And
So
it's one easy place too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, this binder holds a lot of statements, because statements have all the information that you need on them.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. You mentioned what I really do like about it is it's one place, and it's two binders that come in the box plus the put your poop in a group bag. Um, the and I mean, it's more than you can imagine in the sense of guiding you through the process to get organized. Once you're organized, just keep it organized. The fire safe. I think you talked about a fire safe box. I get that that's important, but I already have one. So
Exactly.
I think for some people they may need one, but some of us
Mhm.
had bought it for other reasons over
Yeah.
time. So So that's a great add-on, I think, in the sense of for those that do need it. I just think it's simple, and that's what I like about it. It simplifies a potentially very bad situation, right? That you can now have the peace of mind that you're not worried about it. But then if something that really does happen, it's
Yeah.
easy to get back on your feet, right?
Yeah. And more importantly, like, I wish I had done this years and years before. When the things happen, like school starting, I need to get my vaccination records for my kids. Well, where are those? So it eliminates my 2 hours of stress digging through boxes or
Yeah.
folders or whatever because I didn't do it.
Yep.
So especially as you have kids and, baseball teams start up and you
Yeah.
need your birth certificate. Well, where did I put that?
Yeah.
So now all I do is somebody asks me for that, I can literally respond in minutes
Yep.
and say,
Yep.
"Oh, I have that right here."
Yep.
And because I also digitized mine, I can easily, quickly email it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and there's nothing. I mean, I said peace of mind, and it's a significant emotion that most people really underestimate. I think a lot of times
yeah,
because um, if it's a disaster, you really need it. But just knowing it's in a place just gives your brain more capacity to focus on
yeah,
other things, right?
yeah.
You're
You
not
can relax.
when you organize your life, you kind of organize. You free up yourself to do more things, right? Because
Exactly.
the brain works that way, right? So
Yeah.
that's awesome what you've done. I'm sorry you went through the fire. That must have been an awful experience. Hopefully your neighbors
You
and
know,
everybody have recovered. And
I'm grateful because we had very little damage to our house. But when I look around, we have a lot of friends that lost their homes completely, and I'm just grateful that that I didn't happen to me, but I my heart goes out to those people because 2 years, 3 years later, they're still coping with this.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I would just say to anybody listening or watching, you know, the central part of Texas, Austin, San Antonio, that area, there are lakes that are all time low, which means fire risk is at an all
so
time high.
scary.
And so, if you have a friend or a relative in those areas, I mentioned earlier, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina has a red flag warning. I'm sure California is not off that list. Colorado may not be off that list. Just if you have a loved one sitting anywhere in those high pressure zones, think about just at least send them to GoBinders.com or buy it for them and send it to them. And then,
Yeah.
of course, the aging parent thing. I think we all have those. It's not a fun thing to talk about, but it can be a rewarding thing to go through. I think with a parent
Yeah.
because there may be other things that you didn't know, like pictures or
Yeah.
something else that may pop up that.
Or valuable collections that they
Yeah,
have that
yeah,
you don't know about.
that's
But
right. You did tell me about somebody that had
yes,
I forget what kind of collection it was, but they had a very valuable collection.
yeah, yeah. In fact, one of my partners in this, her dad had a very valuable gun collection, knife
Mm.
collection, comic book collection. So, and she's still sorting that out 10 years later. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. I had a friend whose father was in the Navy, and they had a lot of stuff that they had to try to organize and get
yeah,
together after his passing. Very good, Donna. What you're doing is great work for people
yeah.
to think about, to get organized, and to maybe help one of their loved ones get organized. If you do, could you mention the best ways to reach you again? I mentioned the website, but maybe mention it again, or however they should find you.
Sure. So we have a LinkedIn page called GoBinders, and our website is gobinders.com. And we have a Facebook page, also GoBinders. So just reach out and find us in those
Exactly,
ways. I highly
and it's
recommend going to the website because then you can really see all the details of what's inside. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about as well. I appreciate the time, and I thank you for organizing us and telling us that it can be an easy habit to build into your life for you and your
Yes,
loved ones to keep it updated as well. And then it's just not as much work. So you won't have
exactly.
50 something years like I do of getting it organized. But
Yeah.
that's so good to see you again, Donna. And we have been swimming around the same ponds with the tech world. So I always enjoy
Yes.
seeing you in that world too. So thank you so much. For everybody watching, next week I have Jennifer Churchill on the call or the show. And Jennifer has started she's been in the business for a while. She was a professional swimmer. She started something called the Feminine Genius Method. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. Feminine Genius Method. And we're going to talk about that and how she's coaching women to achieve great things with that method. So tune in next week. Jennifer Churchill will be our guest. And as always, go check out Time Bandit at timebandit.io. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great weekend.